Alright, we're back to working on the foot pedal, and it's really largely the quantization we're working on, so we're using the foot pedal to do it, foot pedal controller, but this is really for most of the instruments. So I've added one quantizer here that basically forces it to a certain scale, so not necessarily a certain note, but a certain scale, and it's a little better. So I was trying to kind of mess around with something that I couldn't even play before at all. Point there being it's got some sharps and flats in it, so it helps a little bit. There's actually another one I'm going to be trying that forces certain notes that I think will work better, but it's heading in the right direction. Okay, with the last change we made some good progress. I've gone to this new quantizer, and this is note specific and all kinds of stuff, and it's big score, and I'm feeling much better. This is kind of a big deal because even though I'm just doing this on the foot controllers to help all of them, and so even though there's still going to be some limited controllability and limited range on some of the various controllers we make, the problem all along was trying to hit the right note, and this has kind of solved that, so that's a good thing. Now I'm going to play my jamming version of Mary Had a Little Lamb. You're probably going to hear sometimes the high G, so it's basically so that high G, you might hear G sharp, and that's just because I haven't had time to tune this new circuit. So later today or tomorrow I'm going to go back into it and tune it, or trim it is actually the term, and then I believe it'll be in tune, because I think the quantized note's just going out wrong voltage a little bit. But in any event, and another cool benefit here that you might be able to see is these lights. So essentially I can now select certain notes to play and not play, and then I can actually lead with my foot or whatever the other controller was, and I can actually see what note's going to play before I trigger it. So it makes a pretty big difference for somebody who is sighted. But even if you weren't sighted, it's actually a lot better. I still have to tune up the circuits, but I just wanted to show you another kind of thing that you can start to do with this stuff, and this will start to give you an idea of when we get more to the assisted stuff. This is also one of the reasons I picked this keyboard as our standard one. It has some other stuff in it. Like, instead of playing the keyboard, because once we get it out to the MIDI it can be anything, let's have some percussion sounds. Then I'm just going to use this to kind of that's just kind of an example of kind of when we start to get more of the assisted stuff, using some sequences and note augmentation, and we're also, in this case, doubling some notes. That's why you're kind of hearing the cymbals and stuff. So just some of the other stuff we can do with this once we start getting farther down the road. Just another in the never-ending quantization experiments. I'm skipping the analog circuits, the MIDI circuits for just a second. I'm just doing the analog. A little closer. Because I don't have to trigger it, I can do a legato, which in some ways is easier. So, anyway. But that was just to cut the MIDI out for now. So I'm still working on quantization. The gist of what I'm doing here is just, I'm just measuring the control voltage here that the quantizer's sending out. Because the problem I'm running into here is that it's playing the wrong MIDI note number. So as I change which note I'm playing, here's where the quantizer's, like for instance C, D, E flat, G, and so on. It actually seems like the quantizer, which is the harder part's working right. I'm going to compare these to a couple things, but at least on my first comparison it actually looks very good. So that's what I'm basically doing here, is just going to compare what I'm getting to what I should get, but the bottom line is I think that's actually looking good. So I think the problem's going to be in the CV to MIDI converter. So it should be a C. It's 0.996, which is close enough to 1 volt. It should be, but it's getting a B. So anyway, okay, I think I got the quantization working. There's a slightly confusing aspect. Those of you that are software system engineers may appreciate this. So anyway, I added this attenuator just because of some experiments I was doing and some measurements. It has nothing to do with the circuit and should be completely unnecessary. But in any event, it somehow has made it work. And I'm not going to lie, I'm slightly confused why that is. The point is, they're all in tune now. In particular, this G that I just couldn't get to stay in tune, and now I can't get it to go out of tune. And the reference voltages were actually totally correct before the attenuator, and I'm doing almost nothing with the attenuator. But if I back it all the way out, you'll see that the G sounds like a G sharp. See, if I keep hitting it, it'll sometimes play different notes. See how sometimes it's a G and a G sharp, and I've tuned and learned this thing a million times, in case you're wondering. So all I do is I'm just adding enough attenuation there to fix that particular note on the high end. So at least for this initial phase of quantization, we're kind of done. And then of course, like before, there's just practicing makes you better. But I thought I would try to bust out Mary Had a Little Lamb again, which is what I've been using through all these experiments, and we've definitely made progress. So definitely better, making progress.